Do they just think maybe Steph can't be the best guy on a championship team anymore? 22 can never happen again. So even stacking the deck, they have no chance.
Somewhere in the Bay Area right now, there is a 37-year-old man sitting with a decision that could reshape the entire landscape of the NBA, and he has not said a single word about it publicly. But everyone around him is talking, and what they are saying should terrify Warriors fans to their core. Because for the first time in over a decade, the question is no longer whether Stephen Curry can still play at an elite level. The question is whether he even wants to keep playing it in Golden State. Let that sink in for a second. The greatest shooter who has ever lived, the engine behind a dynasty that rewired how basketball is played at every level of the sport. The one constant through championships, through collapses, through the arrival and departure of superstar teammates. And now, whispers are circling that he might be ready to walk away from the only franchise he has ever known. It started quietly. A tweet here, a stray comment on a podcast there. But then Bill Simmons, one of the most connected and provocative voices in basketball media, said the quiet part loud. On his show, he did not just speculate. He built an actual case. A trade, real teams, real players. He proposed that the San Antonio Spurs could send perennial all-star De'Aaron Fox, along with a package of 4 first-round draft picks, to Golden State in exchange for Curry. Now, before you get too far ahead of yourself, understand this. No insider has confirmed anything. Not Shams Charania. Not Brian Windhorst. The 2 most plugged-in reporters in the entire league have said nothing about San Antonio and Curry being connected in any real trade talks. This is speculation. This is a hypothetical. This is Bill Simmons doing what Bill Simmons does best, throwing a grenade into the conversation and watching where the pieces land. But here is the uncomfortable truth hiding underneath all the noise. Just because it is not confirmed does not mean it is not plausible. And that is what makes this so dangerous for Golden State. Think about where this franchise stood just a few years ago. Dominant, untouchable, a dynasty that collected championships like trophies on a shelf, a team that seemed light years ahead of the rest of the league in vision, culture, and execution. Fast forward to today, and that same franchise is scraping the bottom of the Western Conference standings. One of the 5 worst teams in the entire West. A fall from grace so steep it feels almost impossible to believe it happened to the same organization. And through all of it, Stephen Curry has remained loyal, patient, watching as the front office tried and failed, time and time again, to find him the help he needed. They whiffed on draft picks. They lost stars to other franchises. They ended up in a place nobody could have predicted 5 years ago, a place where the internet is now seriously wondering if the greatest era in franchise history is quietly coming to an end. Here is the part that should really worry Golden State. The blueprint they tried to copy, the model of sustained excellence they always aspired to. It was San Antonio. It was the Spurs, the very same organization now being floated as a possible landing spot for their franchise player. There is a brutal irony sitting inside that fact, one that Warriors fans have to swallow whether they like it or not. So picture it. Curry, 37 years old, with maybe 2 or 3 prime seasons left in the tank, watching his current team sink further into irrelevance. Would he really choose to spend the final act of his legendary career chasing a fading dream in Golden State? Or would he look at a young, ascending Spurs roster and wonder what it would feel like to compete for one more ring before it is too late? That is the tension driving this entire story. Because if you strip away the trade machine numbers and the hypothetical draft pick math, what you are really looking at is a legacy on the clock. Every great player eventually faces this moment. The moment where accumulated loyalty runs up against the shrinking window of time. Kobe faced it. LeBron has faced it more than once. And now, whether the front office wants to admit it or not, Stephen Curry may be facing it too. Let's talk about what a deal like this could even look like, because the pieces matter. Fox is not the flashiest name in the league right now after a rough playoff stretch, but do not let recency bias fool you. He is an all-star talent, someone who has shown flashes of exactly the kind of dynamic scoring the Warriors would need to keep pushing forward even after Curry's shot begins to fade. San Antonio's draft compensation may not carry elite name value on its own, but their swap rights with Sacramento quietly make this package more interesting than it looks on paper. Of course, there is a limit to what San Antonio would actually give up. Their most valuable young assets, names like Stephen Castle and Dylan Harper, are almost certainly untouchable. But a player like Carter Bryant, someone with upside but not yet fully proven, could realistically be in play if a deal like this ever moved from rumor to reality. So there it is. Fox, Bryant, and a haul of first-round picks. That is likely the strongest offer the Spurs could construct if Curry ever truly became available. Whether Golden State would even entertain such an offer is an entirely different question, one that depends on how desperate they become as this season unfolds. But here is what should keep every Warriors fan up at night. This may all be a moot point if Curry has already made peace with retiring in the only jersey he has ever worn. Loyalty runs deep in the Bay. History runs even deeper. There is a very real chance none of this materializes into anything more than talk radio fodder and speculative trade machines. And yet, the fact that this conversation is even happening, the fact that a media heavyweight like Bill Simmons felt comfortable laying out a real framework for Curry leaving Golden State, tells you everything about where this franchise currently stands. Not long ago, this would have been unthinkable. Now, it is simply another storyline in a season already filled with uncertainty. The Warriors have a choice to make, and the clock is ticking louder than ever. Do they find a way to surround their franchise cornerstone with real difference makers before it is too late? Or do they risk watching the greatest shooter of all time walk into the sunset wearing a different uniform? One thing is certain. This story is far from over, and however it ends, it will define the legacy of an entire era.